Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We're zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question, and that is, how do you manage? What do you do? How do you resolve things when a narcissist has broken up a family? What do you do when things have really gone awry? Things have really gotten into way right field, left field. They're no longer manageable and they are disrupting or breaking apart a family. A narcissist has an insatiable need to have control and power over other people. This is just what they live on. This is their fuel. This is their water. This is their nutrients. They are like a psychic vampire. They will take your lifeblood. They will take your chi. They will take your focus. They will take your being if you let them. Why is this? This type of personality and mindset can be diametrically opposed to who you are at the core and fabric of your being. Even if you're in the same family, this can be a completely different person, a completely different mindset, a completely different way of looking at what the family unit means. And we talk about shared connection, especially when it comes to a family. There is a shared meaning of a family unit and what family means. And usually these lessons are handed down from our parents. Other cultures are better at it than others. Some families really stick together. They might live together for an extended period of time. They might talk to each other. They might socialize. They might get together. Beyond just the usual holidays, they can be very close. They can be very tight-knit. Family systems can be like a work system where there's a boss, there's an Indian chief, there's a totem pole, and so-and-so is relegated to the cleanup, so-and-so is relegated to the storytelling, so-and-so is relegated to the joke. If that top person, sends that ripple downward. If that person in your family, if you happen to have a narcissist in your family, you know firsthand how destructive it can be to have this type of person, quote unquote, running the family or running the show. It's like being on a ship where their weight and their influence is guiding the navigation. In other words, they're, riding the wind and in that little ship, if you will, of the family unit, and they're staying fine, high and dry. What a beautiful coast, what a beautiful view. Isn't this lovely? Just everything seems to be swimming along with them. And here's everybody else with, their end of the deck, basically almost drowning, getting ripples, not being able to see anything. All they see is a wall. All they see and feel is a wall. But there's this person way up at the top who's smiling and is supposed to be connected and waving, and yet they are throwing you asunder and engulfing you with emotional waves that take you into a really sort of dismal abyss. It can be a real state of despair when this type of individual is running the family, because they're controlling the images, they're controlling the meaning, and they're controlling the roles. Now, if you are in a family with a narcissist, you need to understand that you unequivocally, without a doubt, have a role and a presence and a being in that family. You are who you are. You have every degree of right to carry that family name that they do. And especially with this viewer's question, if you are male and the narcissist is a female and they are trying to take power away from the male of the family, traditionally the male will be the one to be an executor, be able to look at things objectively, be able to look at contracts. But if the narcissist is threatened by this role of you as a male, they'll try to strip you of your masculinity. they will also try to strip you of part of that, which is the ability to provide and share. Now, men and women, oh my gosh. I mean, nowadays the lines are becoming blurred. It's no longer politically correct to have a male and female bathroom. It should just have no gender. And, relationships just, there is no such thing as a well-defined male and female. I mean, it's just becoming skewed. Women are having to work harder. Men are having to stay home and be more sensitive. I mean, it's just really the lines are being blurred. And people's roles can be sort of up for grabs. Now, this is a narcissist playground. If they see an opportunity to strip somebody of their self-esteem, of their manhood, of their I am, of their strength, and sort of unravel that and shred it up and take it down, it's very difficult to rebuild, and namely to have a degree of trust with a narcissist. Unfortunately, it's very difficult, and oftentimes very difficult to attain states of trust with a narcissist in the family. Trust is only arrived at when there is transparency. Transparency meaning I'm not hiding anything, I'm not lying, I'm not deceiving, and I'm not manipulating. Manipulation in families can occur from the get-go. Crying for things, whining for things, pointing the finger at somebody else in the family. They did it, assigning blame. And the messages that you get about your family are basically delineated by the mother and father of that family. They're creating a little culture, if you will. And they're setting the tone, they're setting the meaning, they're setting the vibe, they're setting the milieu, they're setting the aesthetics of the family. They're setting the aesthetics, and they are setting the vision. It's almost, I see a lot of similarity between a family and a business. And if you have a narcissist, they're in it for profit. They're not in it for family ties, family to be familiar, to be connected, to, be there through thick and thin, all the things that family means, stick up for your family, family first, all these sort of rules of thumb that you live by and interact by can be taken down and shredded and really blasphemized, if that's a word, made blasphemous, meaning it's contrary to the good. And particularly if you're in a role that is threatening to them and they make you overwhelmed and fearful, then the narcissist has won. A narcissist wants to instill fear in others so that they cannot operate, so that they live in that traumatized position, fight or flight, constantly worrying, feeling constantly judged, held up to scrutiny. It's bombardment. They will not stop. Some can be very severe. Unfortunately, in a family, when you get mature and you kind of are able to detach from this, but it's very difficult to detach because there's a puzzle and there's wanting to reclaim the family, especially when you walk around and you see, families sticking together, and the family church and the family synagogue, or the family car, or the family album, the family heirlooms, the family vase. This was in my family, this came from my family, this brings back a lot of memories from that generation, from that era, and these are cherished. And this is, but you have to not get caught up in that materialism, because some families really make it a real difficult thing, fighting over Christmas ornaments and fighting over, it's just, people don't even look at the relationships, they're looking at the physical things. So what do you do when you've got a narcissist running a family show? Realize that they're going to take down they're going to take down a lot of decorum, etiquette, and structure. Structure is function. So if they can destructure the family, then they can come in and restructure things according to their whim according to their will. They can be the top eagle. They can be the top man or woman on the totem pole, relegating everybody else beneath. And even if this doesn't make any logistic sense or intellectual sense, this person might not have a lot of good intellectual capacity to be responsible, to be fair. All these things go by the wayside. It's no longer a rule of thumb to have, blood is thicker than water. Be kind to your siblings, be there for each other, listen to each other, hear each other out. These are the tenets that a narcissist will destructure, because whatever it is, they're going to make their road according to their entitlement and what they see fit or what they want. And if there are physical things, the narcissist will hoard, they will claim, even before people have passed, they're eyeing things, they're already, just looking at things, sizing things up. Oh, isn't that lovely? And then you can just tell that they're salivating at the mouth, wanting this, wanting that antique, wanting that rug, wanting that chair, wanting that jewelry. And the person hasn't even passed away and they're eyeing the prize. In other words, it's all about, them and how much they can get, whatever it is that they want. And when you get into a psychopathic realm, we're not even going there, because things can really be, the will can be cooked, things. But getting back to how do you really manage, it's to understand that the restructuring that a narcissist doesn't have to be destructured or deconstructed in your mind. You have to realize that with a narcissist, things aren't going to be stable. They are not going to have certainty. They are not going to have legacy. They are not going to have meaning passed down from generation to generation. There's not going to be these shared moments. Things are going to be tense, on edge. Who's going to get this china? Who's going to get this silver? Who's going to be at the head of the table? You're sitting at, you're on the folding chair. They will allocate and show who is boss. Like in nature, you've got a boss cow. The boss cow is going to come out, and even though you've got another cow, who has been running the show or whatever it is, they're going to try to edge it out, hurt it, starve it, leave it out, whatever it is, make sure it gets lost. They're going to take that other boss cow down, even though that other one is worthy, has what it takes, and should be included. It's the fight for their prize. They are all about the win. You don't want to get into an embattlement with a narcissist. Their situation only gets worse. So how do you lift, though, that wound? How do you stop it from jabbing? How do you stop feeling, how do you stop the bleeding? Because it's like a loss of happiness. Like happiness just bleeds out. You don't smile. Everything is downcast. Gravity, emotional gravity and gravity is winning. Well, realize that in this situation, you're witnessing, what happens when someone who is, pathologically selfish, in other words, they are sick. There is a sickness. There is a degree of dis-ease and disharmony. These people are not well. And if you are trying to rectify, resolve, have them see things differently, they're always going to see things through the lens of this illness. They're always going to see things through the scope of their pathology, meaning they're going to see things according to their personality and their personality disorder. They're going to have a very consistent pattern, through and through. And, unless they have, you have to be careful, because they'll, seem to have a breakdown and then they'll try to reconnect. But there's usually something that they want to take. These are the takers of the world. These are not the givers. So if you are looking to receive and have a healthy flow and balance of back and forth with this individual, it ain't happening. It ain't in the books. Even though you would love to love them that way and to have that, it's very difficult. You can't reconstruct this personality that is bent on deconstructing. It's very difficult to get in there and have a relation and build a relationship on trust and equanimity and value and mutual respect, and have it on a mature basis with these types of individuals, because they want to run immaturely. They are going to perpetuate this immaturity. Even though they might be adults, there's this child within that still wants the toy. They still want to claim the sandbox. They still want to be the class clown. They still want all eyes on them. Even if it means hurting other people who have been there for them. It's really, I think you need to look at your desire, quote unquote, where am I in? Do you want to get back in? Oftentimes being, quote unquote, in with a narcissist is not a healthy drive, because it only results in self-defeating and self-sabotaging and then acting in. Acting in, meaning you continue to what I call carry the torch or carry the baton of hurt that they gave you. In other words, if they're not then around to hurt you, you then subconsciously, unconsciously bring up those same problems. Problems at work, problems with diet, problem with relationships, problem with finances. Your subconscious finds a way to sabotage things even when they're not around. It's like the hurt that keeps hurting. This is because of the desire to want to be back in and have, be heard and to be seen for who you are. Knowing your heart, that the narcissist sees things and has things. Okay, they want to be the seer, they want to be the have, they want to see what others see and have what others don't have. They want to have that exclusivity, meaning that no one else can get in. So if you're feeling like no one else can get in, it's kind of like a golf club. Unless you're a member, you can't get in, you can't get past this point. The narcissist will set up situations very much like this, exclusivity. You can't get in unless, even though a family shouldn't be broken out into this, or, work environments, unhealthy, I would say if you compare it to a work environment, some work environments will have for people who did this and this, only they get food today and everybody else doesn't get any food. And then they're at the meeting eating. If you've ever seen this happen, it's preposterous, it's barbaric, it's really low level. And unfortunately, some work settings will do this. It's not motivating. If some people have it under the guise of motivating, it is demotivating. So if you've experienced this, sort of being left out, not being able to come to the table and eat, not being able to share in an inheritance, not being able to share in the life of this sibling, to feel left out, to not be able to get to know them, to be close to their belongings, what they cherish, because their energy, is kind of in it, if you will. Is to realize that this deprivation is part of the exclusivity, and to try to match up. How do you resolve it? You can't really love that sibling in the way that you want to love them. What is natural to you is suddenly made unnatural and dysfunctional. So it's important to rekindle that desire to share in nostalgia and sentimentality, and to be able to obtain and construct and recreate for yourself what this means. Now, to want to be part of the toxicity, you can evaluate and do a scan of yourself. To what degree would that really, I talk to a lot of people who are in this situation, and unequivocally, there is oftentimes money involved, inheritance involved, physical items of value involved, jewelry, furniture, heirlooms. This is all what people, it's like the kitty in the middle, and the narcissist and their flying monkeys will be circling and dancing around this, salivating at the chops or whatever it's called, frothing at the mouth, licking their chops. This is going to be mine. This is going to be mine, even though it still belongs to that person. It's not really about things. Life, don't fall into that trap. If you've suffered the heartbreak, if you've suffered the loss, feeling that you've lost your family, your connection to your legacy of who you are, don't perceive things in that manner. In other words, people, they feel that they can't even, live in that town or that high school, or, go to those restaurants where those people were, because they're so much bigger than life and they just seem to own it, and they will capitalize on what you have done wrong, oftentimes, to really nail in that feeling. Making your life smaller. You can't go and visit this house. You can't go and visit this yard, this school, this restaurant, these people. There's this exclusivity that they're trying to siphon things off. Don't buy into the illusion. See through the transparency. Don't envy the narcissist. Don't envy the train wreck. Don't buy into the illusion. See through, especially, see through their, enjoying of things, especially if you look on Facebook. It's all, manufactured perfection. Oh my God, look at me and my boat, or, this is the perfect sunset. You have access to the same experiences. It doesn't, even without the same money, you can embrace the same sunrises, the same sunsets. You can sit on the comfortable couch. You can find a great tasting steak. You can enjoy the company of others. Take your eyes off of that and begin to allow the meaning and allow that to come back within. In other words, all the hot irons that you've put out to make inroads with these people. I'm here. I'm warm-blooded. I am your blood. All these effects which ricochet back and only come back with a negative message. You're not my blood. You're not this. You don't belong. And all of a sudden you feel this dissociation and disidentification with yourself. And oftentimes it is that self-abandonment, which is so very scary. It's not even giving up on something. It's, when you get really into the psychopathic realm, they really want others, and they design so that others will abandon themselves. They'll disconnect with their own values. So find other ways that you can create that legacy from yourself. But oftentimes it's the time and that gap that a lot can be lost. A lot can be lost. In other words, because it's so demotivating and it's so heartbreaking. Once again, when we've got the food over here, you're at the same meeting and here they come delivering and catering. Only 5 people are eating and everybody else doesn't have. This is like some sort of cruelty. This is not meant to be motivating. Oftentimes it's very demotivating. So be careful of getting stuck in that demotivating phase where you're still looking. It's like looking at a mess and saying, oh my God, that's such a mess. And then feeling overwhelmed because you can't clean it up. A narcissist mess is something you don't need to clean up. If it's your family, this is your family. You still have a place, a foothold. If you're the man of the family, you're the man of the family. You are all that. You are the man. If you're the woman of the family, you carry the family name. You have your birth certificate. Begin to really look and focus in on what you have and what is your connection to it all. If you've got narcissistic siblings who do nothing but cause problems, and there's nothing but water cooler talk, or a rumor, or tit for tat, or you were included and you were purposely not included here, don't assign hurt when you see that. Just say that this is who they are. I'm not taking it personally. This is just how they move people around like they're pawns. You're not a pawn. Because they say walk that way doesn't mean you walk that way. You might walk this way because this is where you want. Begin to see how they have just, subconsciously caused you, and we're going to talk more about this because I think there's a lot of content and substance here. But look at the substance of your own life and begin to see how their hurt to cause dysfunction, cause you to stay trauma bonded, and then try to then use force like the Stockholm Syndrome to try to identify with a falseness, which they can't connect to for whatever reason. I kind of feel like I'm missing some of the information, like why did they target you, what went on earlier on. There might be some earlier events that are pivotal in why and where you're at right now. So oftentimes it's getting to those pivotal moments and looking at how, because one was young or immature, didn't know how to handle it, and so it happened again, and they still didn't get the info, and the lessons weren't there, or the people, or the books, to make sense of it. So it just stayed this convoluted, chaotic, continue to harming mess, and that becomes a real, thorn until the thorn becomes embedded, and it's like becomes so deep that it's like, how do we get this out? It's very important, I feel, to look at these players and to give them their space, give them their energy, but learn how important it is to protect yourself from people like this. They are like the thorns on the rose. You're wanting it. You're wanting the rose. You're wanting to have the family. If the rose is like symbolic of the love, you go in, and then here comes the thorn, pricking you, scarring you before you even get a chance to breathe it in and enjoy it. Realize that they're going to put thorns in like an emotional minefield to try to get you, to follow their structure that causes you to take steps according to them, like a puppet. Cut the strings and realize that you are still part of this family. Begin to understand perhaps some of the earlier events that were pivotal, where this created a meaning, like either the deer in the headlights or the freeze, the fight or flight. Oftentimes, if you're constantly sort of fearful, realize that this fear was instilled to disempower. And if you have been on that track for a long time, what you need to do is build self up. Build yourself up. Build new memories. The recovery date that I talk about. Going on a recovery date, just you, and taking out your whole healthy, unscarred self. And just feeling free and strong and responsible and clear, and allowing yourself to recognize the defense mechanisms that you had put up, and realizing that you no longer need to engage in these defense mechanisms to protect yourself. And realize that now tools like Instagram and Facebook are like the thorns of the narcissist. Thorn after thorn. Look at me, look at me, look at me. I have and you don't. Don't be fooled. Don't fall into the trap. Realize a lot of it is manufactured. Don't buy into the superficial. Looks can be deceiving. And even if this is your family, begin to build oneself up, creating the recovery date, the recovery gift, the recovery journal, lessons learned. And then begin to ask yourself new questions. If I wasn't so wounded by this dynamic, I would really love to. Fill in the blank. Even though I have been scapegoated, my true essence of family, I feel, is when Begin to see what is your true connection to family. How has it really resonated? And begin to look at how it's really caused you to direct and shape your life. You might be very sensitive. You might be very sweet. You might be very caring. You might be very affectionate. You might be very intelligent. You might be hyper responsible. Look at some of these qualities where it's cultivated you and helped to shape you and temper you. Begin to embrace those good, positive qualities. Begin to look hard for them. Begin to create that new shift. And if family to you means looking for extended family, look to extended family. Take pictures. Begin to frame them. Have them in your house. Begin to, take new pictures. Create new memories. Create new family traditions, if you will. Begin to build yourself up and begin to, bring here, but you have to protect yourself. You have to protect yourself from the emotional jabs of the narcissist and the flying monkeys. And oftentimes, when it's very severe, no contact can be very important, especially for an extended period of time. And then build yourself up, especially when it comes to feeling that you have family or you have legacy, or doing your DNA test and following the roots of your family tree, ancestry.com. Go and look to this extended information and build up information for yourself so that you have resources and tools within that you will share when ready, but not to give to others, not to tempt and lure them back in, but to build up and share for yourself and yourself alone. Begin to develop that relationship with yourself. Your own buddy is right here. Hey buddy, if you want family, then let's do this. Hey buddy, if you want to be healthy, then let's do this. Take that sabbatical from the toxicity and clear it out. Begin to, have a sort of grief where you can go through these feelings of grieving the loss of not being able to love and have relations that you wanted. It's really taking stock of what were some false promises, but what are the real promises? What is the real? What is the raw? Begin to live in that rawness and begin to look at and pay attention to those little moments where you're shaping and shifting from within, allowing yourself to feel the emotions, but going back and being there for yourself in those moments of hurt, and gather yourself up and say, hey buddy, or whatever your name is, hey, I've got you. Look, this is what we should do. This is what we can do. This is what I would advise. Your older self, your role of metacognition, which is more mature but needs to be separated and cultivated